Hey, this is Decoy with DecoyNoise, and today we're going over more Am I the Antagonist stories, with today's theme being consequences. Good consequences, bad consequences, necessary consequences, overkill consequences, whatever it may be, that's pretty much the theme of Am I the Antagonist in a nutshell, and today's featured post is, Am I the Antagonist for telling my fiance he has to stop helping his ex with rent? So before we get into today's toast, I want to make sure you guys are subscribed down below with the notifications on, because every day at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, you want to take a nice little break and hang out with your invisible roommate, Decoy, while we just kind of gossip about stuff going online. So let's go ahead and get to the story right now. OP wrote, my fiance, a 26-year-old male, and I, a 25-year-old female, are supposed to get married next spring. But there's one thing that's keeping me from wanting to continue with the wedding until this is solved. Him and his ex had a baby when they were both 22, but broke up shortly after the baby was born. We started dating a year later, and are now engaged. The child is now 4. He wants to stay close to his daughter, but the baby mother cannot afford rent in a place closer and would have to move to either a one-bedroom, a bad neighborhood about 25 minutes away, or a decent neighborhood an hour away. So my fiance made an arrangement that he'd help her pay for rent, give her about $200 a month, plus another $100 in childcare, in exchange of not putting him on child support. The $100 I can understand, but the helping with rent is really bothering me, and I feel like if she can't afford rent, then she needs to find another place to live. I'd be willing to take her in her daughter if she decides to get a one-bedroom instead, but my fiance got angry and said the decisions he makes about his child do not involve me. His ex found out and said that if he stops helping with rent, she's gonna have to go for child support, and that she's helping us out because apparently she can get more from child support because of how much my fiance makes. However, I think this is just an empty threat. I told my fiance I'm not marrying him unless he stops. So my knee-jerk reaction before we read the whole case and take it to Decoy court would be that she is going to see some heavy consequences if she says, no, this is where I'm putting my foot down, this is the hill I die on, you're not helping her out with rent. It's like, okay, well, in one way or another, you're going to help her out with rent. She's going to move away to a much nicer place farther away, and you're going to piss off the boyfriend or fiance, and he's going to end up breaking up with you. There's a lot more worse that could happen, but let's go ahead and read this top and controversial comments to see what everybody else is saying. So someone that got gold says, you're the antagonist. You two are getting a steal of a deal for $300 a month in child support in lieu of a formal arrangement through the courts that can cost you way more. You need to butt out. It's his child and he's a good man for wanting to provide. Stop buying the awards and go buy your neighbor a coffee or something. Do some good in the real world. Yes, the whole giving Reddit money for just being Reddit. Yeah, I can see why they're mad at that. Next reply, you're the antagonist. He's responsible for his child and is paying a shockingly low amount of support outside of the rent. If you're not willing to support him in supporting his child, move on and find a partner without children, which is probably what it's coming down to. She doesn't like the whole ex-girlfriend. It's not working out for her. Next person saying, you're the antagonist. Child support is supposed to be used to maintain a house, food, clothing, etc. for the child. He's not currently paying child support, so he's paying her $300 a month, or is it $300 plus rent help? Either way, it's being used for the betterment of their mutual child. Don't like it, then you should leave. And that's what it's coming down to, is she doesn't like necessarily the idea of child support or the whole rent or whatever. It's just she doesn't like the fact that he's always going to be connected to his ex and she's always going to be relevant and he's always going to have to take what's perceivably hers, like his money, his time, his care, whatever. She wants the ex out of the picture. She wants to use this as leverage to say, hey, I don't like the ex-girlfriend, so how about, since she can't afford it, we'll take in the baby, we'll start our own family together, but, you know, butt out, this doesn't involve you. But she doesn't understand that his child is still the ex-girlfriend's child too, so this is gonna backfire so much. But let's see if the controversial comments have something better to say for us right now. The top controversial comment being, you're the antagonist. And like, I almost get it, because this crap would piss me off to no end. But I would never date a dude who has a kid with someone else for this reason. You chose to date a dude with a kid, now you have to accept that financially caring for the kid, even when it's not with him, is part of that. And that's the thing, is I know that a lot of people catch a lot of flack, especially like in my age category, where you say, yo, you're single, you're dating, but I will not date single moms. Like, oh, how dare you not date single moms? There's a myriad of reasons why they could be a single mom, blah, blah, blah. It's like, hey, this is the reason right here, and you can't fault OP for not wanting to deal with someone that's still attached to their ex. Like, if you've ever been on Tinder for any period of time, you know most people on there are either on a break or still, you know, fawning over their ex. So it's just kind of this thing where it's like, yeah, it sucks when you're trying to be involved with somebody that just can't let go of something that's just not going to work. And dating a single parent is exactly that. So you don't want to fault OP for this, but it's something that she either has to accept or move on. But the next controversial reply is, You're the antagonist, but I do see how this could bother you. I'm assuming you don't have children, let alone been a single parent. Your fiance is a great guy. He has a child and takes care of it. I don't think this should affect you marrying him. Think about it this way. If y'all had children and broke up, you would want him to do the same for you and your children. The money is going towards the care of the child. If they were still together, he'd be paying more anyways than what he gives her. I will tell you this to get everything written down and signed by both parties. She can turn around and file for child support and claim you never gave her anything. Even if she admits to it, it can be considered a gift. A man who takes care of his child and responsibilities sounds like a great man that you would want to marry and build a life with. And the thing is though, is if you're just moreover, I want a mature, caring person, that would make sense, but not necessarily, a mature, caring person that maybe doesn't have any strings attached. But the next reply is ETA, and I forget what that means, so put me in the comment section what ETA is. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Everyone sucks here. Everyone's the antagonist here. So lots of red flags here from everyone. Firstly, from your fiance. The decisions about his child do involve you because he's marrying you and you're a large part of his life. Your input is completely valid. Secondly, from the ex. Backdated child support exists. Be careful she isn't just getting money out of your fiance, then plans on double dipping in the future and getting all the child support anyways. And lastly, from you. If being a father is important to your fiance, then you need to support him. How are you going to threaten him for wanting to be a part of the son's life more often? Take the ex out of the equation and look at it that way. As far as my advice goes, I'd say swap to child support and stop the help each month. The way you're doing what the law requires, your fiance's kid can afford to live close to the father and you don't have to worry about what is being done with the money because it has to be paid regardless. Negative 50 points. So over at Decoy Court, to give you not the knee-jerk reaction, but our educated reaction, because we've seen the prosecution top posts and the defendant controversial posts, and right here, this person got heavily downvoted just because they're giving their feedback that doesn't necessarily exist. They're just kind of interjecting, hey, maybe the ex-girlfriend has some, maniacal plan of saying, oh, I'm going to double dip. I'm going to get this $400 a month plus some child support later on. And they're saying the fiance, he's the antagonist because he's trying to say that, oh, the fiance needs to take into account his new fiance, his new girlfriend, when considering whether or not he should appropriately provide for his own child. No, he's not the antagonist for saying, hey, if you're trying to tell me that I need to cut off his ex-girlfriend, the baby mama, from any financial support because she doesn't like it and potentially hurting his own child in the process, that's terrible advice. So I'm going to go ahead and say that OP, yeah, you're the antagonist, maybe just the misinformed antagonist, because this could just backfire in her face so hard. It's going to piss off the fiance. It's going to make the child support shoot way up. It's just... This is her power move right now, and it's going to backfire royally. And she's just a misinformed antagonist. So that's my feedback. Let me know if you guys have better feedback down below. Put in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm wrong or right, whatever it may be. But just make sure you're subscribed so you can be a part of the Decoy Koi Pond. But the next post of today would be, am I the antagonist for allowing a dad to humiliate his son in my class? So OP wrote, I teach 5th grade, which is usually hit or miss in terms of behavior. I have one student, Calvin, who's quite disruptive. He's a class clown, except it's not cute. The other day, he climbed on top of the tables in the library and started dancing when he thought I wasn't looking. I've tried different ways to work around it, including, but I feel like I can no longer be Mr. Nice Guy. I assumed that his parents spoil him, so I was hesitant to talk to them because it seemed like a lost cause. The kid had his own driver. Boy, was I wrong. I did speak to his dad, who was furious. He brought him to me and apologized. He said if he ever got a bad report like he did in the library, then he would sit with him in class like he was a baby. That threat seemed to get Calvin's attention, but it seemed empty. I mean, the dude doesn't even have time to drop his kid off at school. Things were fine for a while, then he started up with purposely giving stupid answers when I called on him. I pulled him to the side and asked him if we wanted his dad to babysit him at school, and he said no because his dad wouldn't do it because he would embarrass him. So I emailed his dad and asked if he could sit with him in class. Calvin didn't know it was going to happen and kept telling his dad to go. His dad stayed with him all day and Calvin hated it. He was micromanaged, boss, and snapped at him all day. I think the worst part was having his friends laugh at him. Calvin did cry a few times. His dad was like the boss from heck. Ever since then, his behavior has improved. And I know people ask why I wasn't more hands-on with discipline. This is a $25 to $35K a year private school, and the parents are famous entertainers, and there's a long wait list to get in. Things are very different than in a public school. Edit, for people saying I don't understand Calvin or he needs a male role model or whatever. I get boys like him because I was a 10-year-old boy myself. It's not difficult for me to relate to boys in my class because I remember what my interests/problems were at that age. I take an interest in them and have an interest in me, especially my tattoos when I wear a polo. There are things that I know about these kids that their parents don't. However, I'm not their psychologist, and Calvin doesn't need a psychologist. He's 10 and hitting puberty, and his brain is going haywire. You're dang right. I was thrilled when the dad stepped in. I came out looking like the good guy and did less work. So before we get to the actual, decoy, coit, and all that stuff right there, I do want to say that the post said that this guy's the antagonist, but here's my knee-jerk reaction. It's going to be unpopular, I can already tell, but, let me have it. Shout me down in the comment section here. I don't mind, because I may be wrong, but to me, this seems like a good solution to a bad problem. Like, the kid's acting out, doing a whole bunch of stuff, and the dad is parenting their kid. Like, he has a driver to school, he's probably spoiled and everything, but nothing seemed to get through this kid, through to his head, that there was no consequences for his bad actions, and then they showed him a very clear consequence that embarrassed him and got him to act upright. I mean, better that he learns this in 5th grade, and he's embarrassed and has some shame in his life now than maybe when he's in high school and the dad isn't around to be doing all this extra parenting and, like, embarrassing him. Because, like, let's face it right now, you guys are all probably around the same age group when you're watching this channel. How many people from 5th grade do you still know? Nobody. So if you get embarrassed in front of them, does it really matter? No, but the lesson he learned right now probably did, and it's probably going to make him a better person overall, because he realizes, hey, there's consequences to my actions, so maybe I need to step it up a bit. So just the fact that I saw that this was an antagonist, I'm very curious to see what the top and controversial comments, because apparently people think that me and this guy are the bad guy. So there's already a warning about, violations to Rule 1 or the ban. So the guy that got lots of awards says, "You're the antagonist and the father is too. I don't think that humiliation is an effective teaching tool. It is concerning that this is the first strategy that the father suggested. I can't help but wonder what discipline is like at home. There are many other ways that you could have worked with the parents to help this child understand why this behavior is inappropriate. 2 full-grown adults making a 10-year-old cry should not have been one of them." So I do understand where this is coming from with that. Like, they weren't sitting there like, ha, we made this kid cry. Like, they feel good about themselves and all that. I think it was a situation where they didn't really know how it was going to pan out, but they were sick and tired of hearing him act out. Like, why don't you act straight, giving him bad marks, telling the parent, having a parent-teacher conference and all sitting him down saying this needs to stop, and none of that got through. So maybe them showing up and saying, okay, I'm going to watch over you. No, you need to do your work. Hey, what else were they going to do? Were they supposed to, like, hit him? Or were they supposed to, I don't know, like, take away all his clothes or video games or something? Like, who knows what else was involved in this? But these people are saying, like, they just jumped to the worst possible situation. Oh yeah, 2 adults are just making him cry. Like, I don't know if that was a thing, but that's their thing. So the next reply with freaking stars and everything was, "Everyone sucks here except the child. The kid is learning from those around him. Discipline shouldn't involve humiliation and alienation, and doing so just makes kids into bigger antagonists than they were before." I don't know, maybe I just grew up in a different generation where I've had that, where one of my classes had the guy that was a class clown not turning in assignments, and I've seen this exact thing pan out. I think it was like 7th grade, where the dad came in and sit in every single one of his classes and just watched over him and made sure he acted right, and it was so embarrassing for him that he finally started acting right. And the thing is always, what would be the better alternative? Like, the parent doesn't get involved in the child's learning and makes them get back on track and, really sends a message home with them? I don't know. So next reply was, "I was Calvin, class clown, very early ADHD diagnosis, emphasis on hyperactivity. 5th grade, I almost hurt my teacher running with scissors, and somehow I always managed to get into disagreements with other kids. I was not spoiled, but instead beaten at home, heavily. Mr. Stewart, my teacher at the time, took a similar approach to yours, very punitive. I got blamed for everything. He even told my mother that I wouldn't graduate from high school. I'll never forget it. The shame I internalized from such formative years is something that limited my potential, and I will have to work the rest of my life. I am somewhat stressful overall, and my self-esteem is crap. True life satisfaction often seems far from reach. Shame on you for shaming children. Shame on you for judging them instead of attempting to understand these kids and the roots leading those behaviors. Everyone sucks here except for Calvin." So the one thing I will say right here is, you're talking about a very prestigious private school, very well-off parents that are like, have a driver take them to school. Yes, this poster right here is seeing it from their position where they're like, I was undiagnosed ADHD and it was very hard for them. I have a hard time believing that a high-end school like this, if the kid was ADHD, they just wouldn't know about it. The parent that has enough money and doctors and ability and privilege to have a driver take this kid to school and pay $35,000 a school is going to miss an ADHD diagnosis. I don't know. I don't see that. And just the idea that this person right here is getting all these awards because they have a situation that is not this one right here. Because OP even said right there, I'd imagine you're not the bottom of the barrel garbage teacher that can't recognize basic child needs, where they're saying, hey, I was counting a kid at a young age, like, he's just going through puberty, he has all this energy and just doesn't know how to get it out. So he's just trying to help corral him in. And the idea is, if he was ADHD, I imagine if he had some sort of learning disability, I think that they would be able to take care of it. The idea is these posters over here just seem to know better than this prestigious school with these rich parents and all this, that he's not even a dismissive parent. He actually has a time to go to school and give him all this advantage in life. I don't know. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. But let's go ahead and go to controversial right now, saying, well, you got what you wanted, improved behavior, but I wonder about the toll it took on Calvin. My husband was a bit of a class clown, but he was also low-key depressed and needing good attention. Now in our old age, he does and says silly things to get a laugh. When I ask him why, he says he's depressed unless he can make someone laugh. So not the antagonist, I guess. And everybody's taking the side of this kid Calvin as something that hadn't been represented in the thing. They just said, hey, he has lots of energy, but all of a sudden they're saying he's depressed and needs good attention, like he's the class clown. Like, a lot of people will watch this and say, wow, Decoy, you got ADHD, you're bouncing off all the walls and everything. And I think that without good discipline and stern, I don't want to say like crazy stern parenting, but just stern teaching from teachers and like discipline all around me, it really corralled me in so I could learn and sit through a long lecture and everything. The teaching now seems so different from when I was a kid, where it's like, you know, all the stuff to cater to them. Like, I'm sure if I was in elementary school right now, they probably would have prescribed me, you know, what are those ADHD meds, like Ritalin or something. I don't know what it is, but just the idea that I feel like there's a way you can counteract it if you give it the right attention and, you know, the time taken from the parents. I don't know if this whole armchair diagnosis from Reddit saying, yep, he's got ADHD, so you guys are terrible people. I don't know, but let's go ahead and read another controversial reply, which is, you're the antagonist? What's with all the not the antagonist here? Public humiliation is not a valid pedagogical tool. This will definitely have lasting consequences for a relationship with his peers, his father, and especially you. Congrats, you made Calvin hate your guts forever and likely opened him up for bullying by his peers. If he wasn't already being bullied, he's a kid. They sometimes act dumb. No need to psychologically scar him. So the one thing I guess in Decoy quote right now I gotta say is, what was the alternative? What? No, seriously, like, not the whole defend him because he's hyperactive or whatever, but what would it be like? Should we just load him up with some meds and make him kind of comatose in class so he can pay attention? Should we just let him be bouncing off the walls, distracting class, and hurting the other 29 to 49 students in that class so they can't learn when he's bouncing off the walls? Like, I don't want to say, hey, Calvin's the forgotten student because he's getting all the care in the world, but it's just, it seems a little missing the point here when everybody's so jumping down the teacher for taking the time out of his day to try to figure out a way to hone in a problem student. I just think that there's no consequence, like they don't want any consequences for this person. And it's kind of bizarre when you look at a lot of these Am I the Antagonist stories where they just seem to not want to let, like, whoever the victim in the situation is, whoever got hurt is automatically who they want to jump to offend. So I already know you guys are going to probably, if you don't agree with me, you're going to go off on the comment section, but I welcome that. I want to hear why you think I'm the antagonist, why you think I'm wrong, because I'm open-minded. Maybe I'll read your comments down below and just say, okay, I don't understand what those initial posts were, but somebody from the Decoy can give me an in-depth analysis as to why it's a bad decision or a good decision, and tell me why, because to me, I'm saying there's no antagonist here. You know, the teacher's not the antagonist for wanting a smooth learning environment for everybody and letting Calvin know that there are consequences to his actions. The parent isn't an antagonist because he has lots of money to, you know, send his kid to a good school, give him a driver, and also take time out of his basic work life to sit alongside and try to, you know, really hammer home a lesson. And Calvin, because he's a bad kid, but kids are bad. When they're in 5th grade, he has all his energy. He's just learning right now. So I don't think anyone's in the wrong, but apparently everybody thinks that I'm in the wrong, this person's the wrong, everybody's bad, and how dare we do this to this poor kid named Calvin. So make sure you guys are giving me your feedback if you think I'm wrong. So let's go ahead and go to the final story of the day, which is, am I the antagonist for not tipping a very rude waitress? So the next reply was, honestly, this whole thing is kind of ridiculous. My girlfriend, a 25-year-old female, and I, a 25-year-old male, went for a quick brunch on a Sunday morning. Our waitress was shockingly rude to us. As soon as she put down our food, she immediately said, "Can you eat in 20 minutes and go, please? I have tables waiting." We were kind of shocked, but it politely said, we'll see what we can do, and carried on with our brunch. Throughout our meal, she came by several times to ask if we're done when we're clearly still eating. We're both slow eaters and we're trying to enjoy our Sunday brunch and first outing to a restaurant in 6 months, but my girlfriend says she feels bad and rushed me to finish my food. So we finished in about 20 minutes or so and then asked for the bill. She came to our table with the bill and debit machine already, rushed us through the payment, and was very cold towards us. I normally tip a steady 15 to 20%, as I know servers where we live, Canada, rely on tips to provide for themselves. However, she was just so rude for that for the first time ever. I didn't tip her anything. My girlfriend only found out that I didn't tip after we left the restaurant. We take turns paying on outings, and it was my turn to pay. I paid with my credit card, and she couldn't see that I didn't tip. and got very upset with me. She said servers right now are really struggling and we should support them as much as we can. I said I'm more than willing to do that, but the situation was very unpleasant and unprofessional. We've been bickering about this for 3 days. Am I the antagonist? So the knee-jerk reaction before we actually take it to official decoy court would be a situation of, I've been a server for a very long time when I was growing up, so I know the two situations there. And if OP is in a super busy restaurant and she's just like the only server for 20 tables and stressed out and trying to just get by, it would be kind of messed up to sit her on a tip, because it's not the server that got put in that situation. It was the restaurant owner and manager and whatever the situation they got in Canada right now with their employment and staffing, where, hey, maybe it's not her fault that she's rushing them through the transaction, so it's kind of messed up to take it out on her. But in the same sense, maybe it was just a slow day and maybe it's not that busy and she was just a jerk overall. So I could see why he wouldn't want to tip. But let's go ahead and go to the top reply to see what's going on. So the top reply was, no antagonist here. I'm also Canadian and we wouldn't have tipped that waitress, but I can see why your girlfriend's upset too. I have a general rule about tipping. If the server is so bad that I'm not going to tip them, then it's also bad enough that I want to speak to a manager to explain why I'm not tipping. And that service was bad enough that I would have spoken to a manager, not the give me a discount way, but in a, hey, heads up, the service was so terrible I'm not tipping kind of way. I also usually find out if the server has to tip out the kitchen staff and bussers, and will leave a tip with the manager specifically for those people. Okay, so that's a reasonable reply, but I honestly don't like complaining to the manager. If my thoughts towards that were, if I get bad service and I don't want to tip them, I'm just never going to go back to that restaurant ever again. I don't need to penalize anybody that's front facing right now. It's just, you hit their bottom line by no longer shopping there. So the next reply was, not the antagonist. When she said that, I would have said, we'll take different server then, thanks. That actually would have been good, but maybe it's like there are some restaurants that are popular in the city where it's just like a 40-minute wait, so you pretty much just get what you get. So the next reply was, not the antagonist. The tip is earned, not expected. Very true, but maybe the top comments are just going to be the rational, like it's kind of a softball right over the plate type of story. So maybe the controversial section will give us something better if I can get that button to work. So the top controversial post is, no antagonist here. My guess is the waitstaff is under a lot of pressure from management to turn tables as quickly as possible, especially if the restaurant was closed for a few months and is open at a limited capacity. In the area where I live, 50% of normal capacity is the current regulation, and many restaurants are struggling to make a profit and stay open. I've noticed some places requesting that customers don't linger at the table so they can serve as many guests as possible. That said, the way she went about it sounds pretty rude. While a tip is expected, you're not obligated to leave anything, and it sounds like the service was definitely below average at best. Anything to add? I've never in my life not left a tip. I used to wait tables and bartend, and it's tough. In this situation, I probably would have left an average mediocre tip and a note saying that we felt very rushed. And that's why I thought too that this is probably coming up from the top down, where they're struggling, they need to turn tables as quick as possible. I mean, it's one of those things where you want to kind of like let the server know, like, hey, this is not the place to work if this is how you're having to treat your clientele, but they probably don't have any options to work anywhere else. Like if all you've been is a waitress and a bartender, where are you gonna go work at the other waitress and other restaurant that has just laid off like 20 waitresses and bartenders? So it's a bad situation for everybody over around. The next reply was, 3-year server weighing around here. No antagonist here. Our job is tough and sometimes it's really difficult to prevent our emotions from coming through, but we know that when it happens, we can't actually accept a tip. I have a table last Sunday of 17 people that my coworker and I split, and they were extremely rude to my coworker throughout the meal. After a while, I told them, listen, y'all need to pay and leave. We don't deserve the crap you've been giving us and we're done with it. They did leave, no tip, but I knew there was going to be no tip. Unless your server was a bit delusional, she was probably fully prepared to not be tipped as long as she kept tables moving faster. And I get that right there. So in the actual decoy court, I'm going to go ahead and think that it's probably a trickle-down thing with the lockdown situation, not having tables, barely making it by, needing to move tables as fast as possible. I think everybody should expect that the service was going to be bad, even the customer coming in there, just because they're hurting so much. And the idea is, yeah, the service shouldn't expect a good tip, and like, you know, having a higher volume of tables should mean that they're getting tipped more, but it's just a bad situation. Like, yeah, should she have been more customer service related? Like, hi, thanks, well, you know, I'm so sorry, but can we just rush these tables a little bit faster? My boss is really hounding me to get more tables in and out because we're hurting from the lockdown so much. She could have done that, but maybe this is just like 7 days a week, day 25 of the last, you know, no days off, and this was just what it's coming down to. So I'd hate to say that they're the antagonist because they're likely in a hard situation. So I'm going to go ahead and say no antagonist here, not the server, not the Not the customer, not OP, not the girlfriend for being mad about that, and probably not even the management. They're probably under heavy stress and probably trying to tell their waiters like, hey, you need to flip these tables as quick as possible because we're gonna be out of cash yesterday type of thing. So I get that all around. So I mean, if you like the new format and you like the kind of the decoy koi pun I'm kind of created right now, make sure you subscribe down below, because here's the thing. I know a lot of you guys don't agree with what I'm saying and all my ideas some of the time, but that's a good thing. We should be able to have a place on the internet where we disagree about something and you can come to me and say, hey, I don't like your opinion on that. This is why you're wrong. And it shouldn't be me saying, downvote that man, block their information. Oh, and I just get all mad and I do a ranty ravey video about how much I dislike them. Hey, we're all hanging out. I'm like your roommate that has different opinions than you and drinks whiskey a little bit too much, and we're just taking a nice little deep breath. And you can disagree with me. We'll still be buddies. I'm still hanging out with you. I'm still like replying to all your comments. So DecoyNoise should be one of the only places on the internet where we can disagree with something but still be friends. So as always, if you're this far in the video, you obviously like the content, you obviously like me somewhat because you're stuck around. So make sure you subscribe, notifications on, and maybe sharing it with somebody you think might like this particular type of content. This, you know, non-sugar-coated opinion, directly my knee-jerk reaction that could be wrong, and I'm totally willing to pay the consequences if I'm wrong in a situation. Let me know. But as always, if you're not going to do any of that and you just like to watch the content, make sure you just put it on autoplay and watch the next episode coming up next.